Released in 1989, Disintegration is The Cure's 8th studio album. It's a classic in the world of gothic and alternative rock, celebrated for its depth, atmosphere, and emotional intensity. The recording sessions for the album were marked by creative friction, bold production choices, and ultimately a desire to create an enduring work that carried with it the risk of alienating fans of their more popular material. This brave approach definitely paid off, as Disintegration is held up as one of the band's finest works. In June of 1988, the group, Robert Smith, bassist Simon Gallup, guitarist Paul Thompson, keyboardist Roger O'Donnell, drummer Boris Williams, and multi-instrumentalist Lol Tolhurst, gathered at Williams' home to review demos each member had prepared individually. Among them were early drafts that later developed into Love Song, Untitled, and several B-sides. Smith contributed a number of instrumental pieces he'd created while scoring short film clips sent to him by different studios. He said that working with film material sparked many ideas and pushed him towards composing longer, more cinematic works, rather than focusing solely on traditional Cure songs. One of the film scoring jobs offered to the band at the time was the Tim Burton film Edward Scissorhands, but for whatever reason it never materialised, although it would have been quite an apt association. After selecting the songs that felt like they had the most promise, the band devoted the rest of the 2-week period to recording around 30 demos on 4-track tapes. They then took a 2-month break, allowing Smith and his long-term partner Mary Poole to prepare for their August wedding, before regrouping in Devon. As summer turned to autumn, the group recorded several of the album's most striking pieces, including Plainsong, The Same Deep Water as You, and the title track Disintegration. The sessions took place at Hook End Recording Studios in Oxfordshire in late 1988, with frontman Robert Smith intentionally fostering an uncomfortable environment to achieve a particular emotional quality in the music. Smith went into what he called his non-talking modes, distancing himself from his bandmates to cultivate a slightly unpleasant and introspective atmosphere, aligning with the somber, reflective themes of the album. Smith remembers, "We could have gone anywhere in the world, but I wanted to make something autumnal in English. We needed to be somewhere reasonably remote, and I knew if we had the smell of burning wood and rotting leaves in the air, and darkness by 4 p.m, the likelihood of rain and thunder, well, it couldn't help but put us in the right mood to record. Things didn't start well, as a potentially devastating fire broke out in the room where Smith kept his satchel of lyrics. He rushed into the flames to rescue his work, narrowly saving the lyrics that would become central to the album. Had he not acted so quickly, many of the song's words might have been lost for good, underscoring the fragile and dramatic circumstances surrounding the album's creation." During the recording of Disintegration, the relationship between Robert Smith and Lol Tolhurst reached a breaking point, as Tolhurst's increasing struggles with alcoholism severely impacted his ability to contribute to the band. Throughout the sessions, Tolhurst's participations were minimal, and his behaviour became disruptive, with Smith and other bandmates growing increasingly frustrated. The situation deteriorated further when Tolhurst criticised the final mix, despite having little involvement, deeply wounding Smith, who had been friends with Tolhurst since childhood. Eventually, Tolhurst was dismissed from the band during the album's mixing phase, leading to a bitter legal dispute over royalties, but eventually the two reconciled years later. The band's live keyboard player Roger O'Donnell ended up taking over from Tolhurst on the sessions, even replacing anything he'd recorded up until that point. His sole contribution ended up being a flute sample that was the inspiration for Homesick, with the record's liner notes merely attributing other instrument to his name. Keyboards actually ended up being a significant part of the album's sound, with cinematic textures provided by Roger and Simon Gallup using an array of synth and samplers. These included the Roland JX8P, the Selena String Ensemble, and the Moog Mini Moog. The samplers included the Emulator 3, the Mirage, the Akai SX12 and the Prophet 2000. The acoustic piano was the Bossendorfer Grand. The extensive atmospheric keyboard work became a defining feature of the record, with the band layering many different parts to create something distinctive. Smith would also get involved in playing keyboards. O'Donnell recalls, "I remember the day we recorded Plainsong. It was all done in the control room, and Robert showed me what to play, and for some reason that day he wasn't talking. I think he was massively hungover, so we did it all with him writing notes. It was hilarious. He played the big chords. They were very Robert, just sort of playing every note you could at the same time. The song is in C, so it's all the white notes, and just about every one of them was played in that song. We kept accurate notes of what the sounds we used, what instruments, and what the chords were for all the keyboard parts. One of the big sounds on the album is the orchestral string sample I got from Dr. Sounds in New York for my Prophet 2000, but we often mixed it in with classic instruments from The Cure's old days. Usually a Selena string ensemble, which is still in the Cure cave. Robert actually likes to try and get it into every song. The textural guitar work on Disintegration was crucial to its sound. Smith primarily used a Fender Bass 6 played like a normal guitar, and a National Newport Val Pro 88, lending a very distinctive sound to the album that can be heard throughout. Paul Thompson favoured the Gibson ES335, which contributed lush, layered tones, especially evident on tracks like Fascination Street, where his strumming technique, such as the behind-the-bridge picking, added a unique character. For acoustic parts, the Takamine 6 and 12 strings were on hand, plus the choral sitar guitar for special textures notable on Pictures of You. When it came to pedals, it was mostly Boss, with the favourites being the CH1 chorus, the DD3 digital delay, and BF2 flanger. There were a plethora of different amps available, but it seems the Roland Jazz Chorus JC120 was used quite often. Vox AC30s, Orange AD30, Selmer Zodiac Twin 30, and the 80s PV Musician Mark III. Simon Gallup's main bass guitars at the time were the Music Man Stingray and the Gibson EB2. These would have been plugged into the Ampeg SVT 200T heads, feeding 8x10 Ampeg classic cabinets. Drummer Boris Williams played a Yamaha recording custom drum kit with Zildjian K cymbals. Interestingly, it's documented that all of Williams' kick drum hits were replaced with a single kick drum sample that he'd actually played earlier. This was done for a more consistent and forceful presence in the mix, very typical of late 1980s production trends. Simmons electronic drum pads and Sinair drum synths were also used alongside the acoustic kit. Smith recalls his state of mind while recording the album. It was a big deal to me to be turning 30. I thought, this is it. This is my last chance to create something really meaningful in my life. And then looking back, I was a bit of a prickly character in some respects, and maybe a bit difficult. More difficult perhaps than I should have been, but I was very, very focused and very single-minded. So I didn't really bother listening to what anyone else thought was good or wasn't good, which was one of those weird things. If it works, it's great, and if it doesn't, it's a really stupid way of doing things. But I just had great self-confidence in what I wanted to do with that particular album. While Smith may have been going through an existential crisis, the mood with the other band members was conversely bright. O'Donnell remembers, "We were working 6 days a week and only had Sundays off, but we also had time to play a lot of computer games. There's a lot of waiting around in studios when you've got nothing to do, so playing games on the computer became quite addictive. We played this game called Elite, where you made money and bought stuff for your spaceship, like automatic docking and shields and weapons, but eventually it was banned from the control room, as it became a bit distracting. Once all the backing tracks were complete, it was time for Robert to lay down his guitar parts and vocals." O'Donnell said, "We were getting close to the end of the sessions, coming up to Christmas, and Robert still hadn't sung anything. We had no idea of melody lines and lyrical content even at this late stage. When he did start to sing, it was quite incredible. Robert has an amazing, powerful, emotive and unique voice, and watching and listening to him sing all those songs for the first time is something I'll never forget." The album was released in May 1989, going to number 3 in the UK charts, which was their highest position to that date. The single Lullaby was also their biggest charting single, going to number 5. The album fared even better in the States, going to number 2 on the Billboard 200. Critics gave it mixed reviews, however, with Melody Maker saying, "You'll be lucky to find a tune on here. The Cure have almost invisibly stopped making pop records." Rolling Stone said, "Disintegration doesn't break new ground for the band. It successfully refines what The Cure does best. The album is widely recognised as one of The Cure's finest and has aged magnificently." Retrospective reviews are far better, with Pitchfork saying, "Scant few albums released in the 1980s can boast an opener as grand as Plainsong, the most breathtaking, shimmering anthem the band ever recorded. It is included on many best of albums lists and remains a defining record of its time." If you'd like to see more videos about the recording process involved in creating these classic albums, then you can support this channel by using my affiliate links in the description. If you're looking to create instrumentals or isolate vocals, Lalal AI is a great tool that I use for the music underneath my voiceover. You can get incredible results with it, and it's definitely worth it in my opinion. If you're looking to buy any equipment featured in these videos, then Thomann is a great place to start for unbeatable value. I regularly use them to buy equipment for the studio and have done for years. So if you want to support me and the channel, this is a great way to do it, as you don't have to pay a thing, and I get a small percentage if you buy anything. Thank you in advance for your help.